Thank you. How was the meal? Good? Yeah, thank you very much. So anyways, first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for the opportunity to be here. That's extremely important to me. And of course, I'd like to thank DC and Pam. I think former residents, great meal, a star at Roy's Koolina. So to me, I don't have a formal speech laid out. I have some talking points that I like to talk about because at my age you tend to forget a lot of different things. So, but which is good. But because some things you don't want to remember, right? But being in the restaurant industry, well, first of all, I have to say, my father was born and raised on Maui, and then married my mother from Okinawa. And my brother and I and my sister, all three of us were born in Japan. So I grew up on an Army base, a U.S. Army base, and lived my first 18 years of my life in Japan, outside of Tokyo. But used to come and visit my grandparents and my aunts and uncles over here in Honolulu and over in Maui. So, thank goodness for that. But when we used to get off the airplane, the first place that my father would always take us after we landed in Honolulu was to Tamashiro Market. And then we used to go to Hawaii Kai because my aunts and uncles lived in Hawaii Kai. So we used to go, and back then they had you can go crabbing and stuff at night. So we used to go crabbing, and didn't really catch much. But, just the opportunity to do something like that was always kind of cool. And then when we used to go to Maui and visit my grandparents, my grandfather was a pretty good cook. And he's the one that really liked to make dinners for us. So he's the one who always took us to different markets and different places on the island over there. And then he would make dinner for us. And then after dinner, we would go grab mangoes from other people's yards and have mango for dessert. But anyways, I was very fortunate. But I think a lot of times when I really think about, why I like to cook, there's a lot of things that come into mind. But like my father used to help my grandfather, his father, because back in the early 40s, my grandfather owned a restaurant on the island of Maui, probably somewhere around Kihei or something. People can't really pinpoint where it really was because there were little kids watching. The older kid were watching the younger kid because my grandparents had 13 kids. But at the end of the day, I think my love for cooking is something that probably came from generations and generations. But I enjoy cooking because, to me, what we do on a day-to-day basis, DC, Cam and I, what we do on a daily basis is we're creating memories. We're being part of people's lives. And what we do is we're there to create memories, lasting memories, that will hopefully get people to enjoy and talk about an experience they had, for the rest of their lives. So I'm grateful that I'm able to be a part of that. Why do I like cooking? Or how did I get it? Well, first of all, how did I get involved in cooking? Other than my father, my grandfather being involved in restaurants and stuff, and markets. A friend of mine, when I was 16 years old, said, "Hey, Roy, we got to take home ec." So I said, "What's home ec?" He goes, "Don't worry about it because we'll meet a lot of girls." So the two of us, me and this guy, Jesse, we were in a classroom with about 16 females. So that's how my career started. That was step number one. And then what I did was I had asked my school counselor to be my guest. So I made a roast turkey. And after my counselor had that roast turkey, he says, Roy, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? And I said, I'm not sure. He goes, well, come to my office. A couple weeks later, I go to his office. And he's the one who actually directed me and did a lot of research and found out that there was a cooking school in New York. And so I ended up going to that cooking school. So, I mean, you never know what happens in life, right? You just meet someone or someone helps you out of the blue, and then you realize that maybe you have a knack for something and someone kind of encourages you to cook. So basically, that's how my career kind of got started. Home ec, going to a cooking school, and then later on, working in a lot of different restaurants in Los Angeles. But to me, I know that there's a lot of, I guess maybe there's a lot of people involved in construction here, which is great. Okay, construction is great, don't get me wrong. But cooking is numero uno. Well, everybody's got to eat, but if you have a cooking job, you'll never go hungry. You don't have to buy your meal. You get the meal when you're working. But I enjoy cooking because, cooking to me is very inspirational, and I really enjoy washing dishes more than anything else. And the reason why I like washing dishes is because it's very tranquil. It's very, very soothing. So when I think about cooking and I think about the restaurant industry, to me it does a lot of different things. Because depending on what you do, it kind of puts you in a different place. And to me, it's a great place. And to me, it's also addicting, because the more I get involved in the restaurant industry, the more I want to learn. And when you think about cooking, you utilize so many different things in life. Your senses, your talent, your creativity, you use your hands. You're able to make something out of pretty much, I wouldn't say nothing, because, a lot of farmers work hard to harvest their crops. So, you're really getting engaged with the land, and you're really taking something that's alive from the ground. And of course, whether it be, if you're not a vegetarian, there's animals out there that you can just kind of, incorporate into your dish. So you're taking a lot of different things from life, and you're creating all of those different things with your own hands. And you can kind of see it come together right in front of your eyes, right? And you're using everything that God gave you to make it happen. And then at the same time, after it's done, and if you're serving it, or even here, right? When you make something in the kitchen and you serve it out here, there's people out here that's going to enjoy the creations that you have just made. So to me, it's very, very rewarding from start to finish, because you can get everything down to one. You get the accolades, and you get the thanks, and then you get the inspiration, and you're inspired. So getting back to cooking. So to me, being in the restaurant industry, to me, it's pretty awesome, because you're able to, again, not only use all of your God-given talents or something that you learn, the skills you learn, but then you rely on people. You rely on your teammates that are cooking and working with you to do their jobs, to make sure that everything that you have to do comes together. So there's a lot of synergy, a lot of teamwork that goes on to make every meal come out great. And to, for instance, in our business, in our restaurant business, we need teamwork. Okay, we need teamwork to make it all happen. So we have a lot of people that come together and make everything work, and kind of like make that wheel spin. So as I continue to talk, if you guys have any questions, I want you guys to be more interactive with me, because I'm more of a guy that likes to talk about what sparks and what makes people tick, rather than me talking about something that I may only care about. Because, like myself, I like to stand in front of a stove and stand in front of a pot and just look at it and make sauce and make that sauce come to life. I can sit there and I can stand there and look at it and work with one sauce for 5, 6, 7 hours and not get bored. Because that's, to me, it's inspirational. It puts you in a zone. It puts you in a zone where you're creating something and you're making something come to life. And you want that flavors to come out. So how do you make those flavors come out? And these are the little details that I think that what makes people rise up. Sometimes you don't think about these little different things, but at the end of the day, I think these are the little things, I call it finesse, that makes people different, that makes you a little better than somebody else, and you work towards that. What can I do today to create another level in my life, another layer? How do I make myself better? How do I differentiate myself from others? Hey, listen, at the end of the day, there's a million guys like me that are trying to do the same thing. But how can I do something a little bit better? What can I do? Even at my age, I've been cooking for, it's sad to say, but I've been cooking for, okay, and after I tell you how many years I've been cooking, you got to say, oh, I don't believe it. But I've been cooking for, I think 48 years. Yeah. 48 years I've been cooking. But you know what? I enjoy it. I love it. But I try to make myself better whenever I cook. When I get behind that kitchen, in the kitchen, behind that stove, I try to differentiate myself to other chefs around the world. Because I try to compete against, not the people that I'm with and see on a day-to-day basis, but the people that I don't see, that I hear of. That's the kind of energy that I put into the kind of work that I do on a day-to-day basis. Because I truly believe that that's where you make a difference. Really not a difference in the world, but you make a difference to yourself. And you can make yourself go that one notch, that one level up, that makes that little difference. So that's the things that I strive for. So as I continue to go, if you have any questions, raise your hands. And hey, this is all about, I'm here for free. I'm not charging, so you can ask me all kinds of questions. Yeah, you know what? Not that I'm great at competitions, because some people are really fast on their feet. They can think and they can do things. I'm more of a guy that likes to really think it out and look at it and just enjoy the moment. But sometimes you can't do that, right? Because you're in a restaurant, you got to make stuff, and like you can use when you're working over here, you got to feed people within a certain amount of time, and you're always rushing. But I told my guys once, I said, you got to get out of your comfort zone. Okay? So you got to get out of your comfort zone, because the only way you can make yourself better is by challenging yourself and getting out of that comfort zone. So I made it a point that, okay, I'm going to do something that's something that I don't like to do, but I'll do it anyways. I don't like to be in front of television. That's to me, it's not a good thing. But because you get nervous and stuff, right? But when you get nervous and stuff, it's okay, because it only means that you get nervous because you want to do a good job. So that's why people get nervous, and it's good, and it's okay. Having that nervous energy is okay. Getting out of that comfort zone is okay. So I made it a point that, okay, this guy calls me up and says, hey, I want you to be on Top Chef Masters. And I said, man, I don't know if I can do that. So I said, I'm not. No, I said, I don't want to do it. So they came back and said, you know what, you should really try it. So I said, But then I said to myself, you know what? I'm asking all my guys all the time to take a leap of faith, do something different, try to better yourself. So I said, you know what? I got to do it. So I did it, and it was pretty wild. And I'm not sure if you guys ever saw that episode, but if you but after the first 5 minutes of the show, I was already off camera. I got eliminated. I didn't get, I didn't walk off the stage. They kicked me off the stage. But I got eliminated after about the first 5 minutes. But I said, it's okay. It's all good. It's all cool. I took that leap of faith. It was energizing. It was kind of scary, and I was nervous. But yet, I took the chance. I did it, and I didn't win. I got eliminated. But hey, listen, I had a great time being eliminated. It was a milestone that I crossed. So I felt really good about it. So, those are the things that are kind of pretty cool, when you're in the restaurant industry, because you do a lot of different things, and, not everything is, in the limelight. A lot of things are in the background, and, you get challenged and stuff, but it's all good at the end. Yes. Well, you know what? To create, to me, like, DC and Cam, we're in the kitchen, we're creating stuff, but you have to be inspired. If you're inspired, you can create. That's the first thing, and to me, it's about creating things, is that if you're inspired about life, if you're inspired about the different things that happens in life, then it opens up your mind and you're able to create. You can see things differently, and what you've seen becomes very totally different, and you're able to attack it. So I get my inspiration from a lot of different things, and believe it or not, tomorrow, so I already know by coming here, I'm inspired. Okay. Being here is very inspirational. So I can think about different things that I see. I'm going to attack it a little different, tomorrow. About a week ago, a friend of mine called me up and said, "Hey, Roy, I'm going to be performing on Oahu. So, why don't you come see my concert?" So I said, "Yeah, okay." I said, "Where are you playing?" He goes, "I don't know. I'm playing somewhere over there, somewhere." So I said, "Okay, fine. I'll find out, and I'll come see you." So, anyways, before he went on stage, so I spent a couple hours with him, backstage, and he was with his drummer, because I'm a drummer, so he's with his drummer, his guitarist, and his a bass player. The bass player was from a great band you probably heard of, Van Halen. And he was a lead singer for Van Halen, Sammy Hagar. So I spent a couple hours with him backstage, and then when he started performing, I was on stage with him, and I was on the side. And then halfway through one song, he goes like this. So I sung a couple of bars, Luckily, the music was loud, so you couldn't hear my singing. But the whole thing is that I was inspired, man. I was inspired because it's not something that I would ever do, or it's not something that's normally I would do. But these things are things that happen. You do stuff, and it just becomes very, very inspirational, and it's just things that you just come out and go, "Hey, man, I want to do something else. I want to do something different. How can I better myself or whatever?" So I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm being sincere, and the more questions you guys ask, the better off, the more I can inspire you. Hopefully, yes. Yeah, well, good. Yeah, thank you. Well, it's hey, listen. At the end of the day, it's our guys and your guys. It's all teamwork. That's what makes the world go around. It's all about coming together. It's all about putting your efforts into it. So it's all good stuff. But yeah, when it comes to seafood, I've been fortunate because I was born and raised in Japan, so I saw a lot of different types of food. Seafood in Japan. Shellfish. Great shrimp. Great sea urchin, uni. Uni. Oh, that's good. Some good stuff right there, man. Hokkaido uni. The sea urchins from Hokkaido up north, where the waters are cold, great shrimp, great sea urchins. But there's different types of fish, and it's really interesting because there's salmon all over the world, right? Norwegian salmon, Scottish salmon, New Zealand salmon, Atlantic salmon, so Pacific salmon. So and then you have a lot of great different types of fish from Hawaii also, right? So we're very fortunate that we're able to use and get treated by having a lot of great fish from around the island. So I deal with a lot of seafood, but at the same time, I love all types of ingredients. So depending on my mood, I may gravitate towards shellfish, or a fish dish that I might want to make, or just the other day, a friend of mine had a party, and he wanted kind of a game for his for one of the wines that he was going to drink. So I got some quail, and I got some duck liver, and made the foie gras, and kind of chopped made the foie gras, and made some chicken liver, and made a stuffing for the quail, and wrapped it in caul fat, which is the lining of the pig, the stomach, and then kind of browned that off, and came out pretty good. I probably ate more than I made because I was tasting it. Yes. Yeah, well, that's a pretty good question. I mean, hey, listen. See, my whole thing is that, whenever I create, so I get inspired. I go, hey, I want to make something, and you know, where I see different colors and I see different, textures, or, I see a lot of different things, and I go, hey, I'm going to create something. So uh, I always have a food bank, I have this memory bank in my mind, right? So I see flavors, I see colors, I see textures, and then I try to create a certain dish by putting all of this that's in my mind, all these flavors that I have in my mind, and all these textures and colors and the different types of food, and then I put it all. And at the end of the day, a lot of times, or usually, it doesn't come out that good in the beginning. Well, I mean, it comes out okay. And don't get me wrong. I mean, it's not bad, but then it's not great. So what do you do to make it great? So that's how I start working at it, and the little details, the finesse, to build it and make it better and better and better and better and better and better, until you get the final product. And even if after you get the final product, you know, sometimes is could be a lot better. But when it comes to mistakes, um, I think one of the things I did once was I made a tomato sauce or something, and then I wanted to make it a little sweeter, so I put sugar in there. But then it got too sweet, so I put some sriracha chili in there. And then I said, well, it's spicy and sweet, but it was kind of missing some like 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 um, like salt. So I said, hey, how about some fish sauce? So I put fish sauce, put a little soy sauce, and it came pretty. At the end, came out pretty good. Yes, or over here somewhere. Okay, if I looked younger, would you be asking me that same question? No, just kidding. Okay, because I look old, you asked me that question. No, just kidding. No, but you know what? Um, it's kind of interesting because you know what? I really feel that well, because you know everybody's taste is different, right? I mean, you have to understand, you know, to start with, everybody has a different way, different taste profile. Some people like salty, some don't. So I'm more of a guy that see, I make my food a little saltier, probably, and a little sweeter than most people. So I mean, just most cooks in the professional world. But that's because I want finesse. I want I want that wow factor. So I look for that wow factor. Like I want people to eat and go, hey, wow. You know, I'm always looking to make sure that the flavor is there. So you know, when it comes to you know making you know things a little salty or you know maybe the flavors aren't you know there. But what happens is when you get older, and mostly and most older chefs, you'll notice that because they're older and they don't take as much sodium, you know, the salt, as they get older, they're more or less their taste profile gets a little lighter. So it's not because they're getting really old and they don't really know how to cook, or I mean their cooking is getting any worse, but it's more like you know their adaptation of how they used to eat. It differs from when they're older and when they were younger, so their flavor profile has changed. So they're eating things that are a little bit more or less bland. And maybe when they were eating ribeye steaks, which is fattier, you know, when they were younger, they're now eating a steak that's a lot more lean, right? A leaner steak as they get older. So, you know, a lot of times it's not because of the them getting, you know, the misjudgment of a taste. It's more of, you know, their dietary habits has gone to a different direction. Yes. You know what? Baking is it's kind of interesting because when I was in my 20s, um, I used to bake more frequently, and but you know, baking is to a certain extent, you know, it's critical that you know you adhere to rules and regulation, right? And me as a chef, I'm more of a you know taking that creativity and experimenting. So a lot of times I don't like to be disciplined to that tight of a 350 degrees, you know, 100 grams of sugar, you know, 600 grams of flour or whatever, and making all that stuff work. So I'm more of a so whenever I do my baking, it usually tends to be more of things that I can kind of play with things to a certain extent, you know, incorporating like you know like you whisk the egg and egg yolk and you know you kind of work with the you know with the egg whites and you kind of make something and you mix this and mix that. So high profile. Well, I mean, we've had a lot of different. You know, I've been blessed to have cooked for two presidents, President Obama and President Clinton. I've been blessed to cook for also um, uh, the president of the Philippines, Corazon Aquino. Um, and you know, and I've been fortunate to cook for the Emperor and Empress of Japan. So you know, those are pretty high profile people. But at the end of the day, you know, cooking for your kids, you know, cooking for your family and friends are the most important. You know, and and you should never forget that. You know, and the thing about cooking is that you know, cooking, you know, if you're a good cook, you know, especially if, you know, you men, you get a lot of dates. I'm just saying. Yes. Yeah, you know what? When I first started, I'm going back to the how I first started. So when I first started, we didn't really have any money, and I had some investors. So I used to go in the morning, go in around 8 o'clock, and then I would, um, you know, do some of the bookwork. Do the invoices. I would do the payroll. I would take the accounts, all the different, Mastercards or Visas or American Express cash, whatever was brought in. I would add all of that up, and then once I finished that, I would go up to the kitchen, and then I would start making sauces. And then when the phone started to ring, I would jump over the counter, answer the phone, and then butcher the meat, fillet the fish, make the sauces. But I love doing all of that. I mean, that's what it takes to make it successful. So, those are the things I used to do. So, in the very, very beginning, I used to do a lot of those different things and work on my leases, and work on to market the restaurant, to do the PR and all of that stuff. So, I'm kind of but don't get me wrong, I had great people around me, you know, great cooks, great servers, great managers, people that took care of the front of the house, the customers, your guests. It's all teamwork. I always say that our business is not about cooking, but it's about people. We got to take care of each other with respect, whether it's kitchen, dining room, because a lot of times, in the old days, kitchens and the dining room always fought. You don't understand what I'm doing, or what, I do more work than you do. But at the end of the day, it takes that group effort, the team effort to make everything work. Kitchen, dining room, management, and then at the guests, making sure that everything is delivered. Working in a restaurant is very, very, to me, I like it because you have to be disciplined. One thing about our business is that if you're not ready, you're going to get creamed. But you have to be ready. You have to be disciplined enough to get yourself ready. And at the end of the day, when 5 o'clock starts or whenever, when the restaurant opens, if you're not ready to tackle, you just get whooped. Mise en place, yes. Hey, I like that. Mise en place, I like that. Yes. Well, yeah, of course, I work with family, but my son was working in the kitchen one day, and I said, okay, go in the kitchen and work, and then later on, I'll give you a call because I may need to ask you a question. A couple hours later, I called the restaurant. I said, hey, I can't get a hold of my son. Is he around there? He goes, no, we haven't seen him in a couple hours. So I said, what? So anyways, I go back to the restaurant. But anyways, he didn't want to be in the kitchen, so he went into the office downstairs, and he was working in the office. But anyways, hey, listen, at the end of the day, I've never pushed my kids to be, I never pushed my kids to be in the restaurant industry. But, and maybe it was a good thing. I don't know. And maybe if my son was, in the kitchen or something, maybe I might have been too hard on him. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it all worked out, so. And yes, the nice looking fence too. I just opened and closed it the other day, so thank you. Hey, aloha, thank you. Oh, good. Well, I appreciate that comment because so again, you can't hamper and not let the inspiration of people rise up to the top. So what we do is we have about 7 or 8 different items on the menu, and we call them classics. Short ribs, our butterfish, black and ahi, baby back ribs. So those are our classics. So those items we have at all the Roys. But then what happens is the creativity of the chef inspires that restaurant to be at a certain level, right? So we have guys that are creative. We have guys that are maybe more of an Italian influence, or maybe Spanish, maybe American, maybe more Asian. So these chefs' creativity and their love for certain types of food kind of propels that restaurant to be what it is. But yet, same thing, within the guidelines of what is Roy's. Seafood primarily, bold Asian flavors, lots of sauces, and that combination is what we're looking for. We want to wow our guests. So we want to leave that taste in someone's mouth when they eat and go, oh wow, that's some good stuff. Or over there, sorry. Yes.
I also enjoy cooking and getting creative with it. It's something that I struggle with occasionally. If I don't measure, if I go, I just cook the taste. It's not being able to duplicate some of the dishes that I produce. Have you ever struggled with that?
Well, that's why it's a good thing, because sometimes you make it once and you go, oh man, I wish I would have wrote it down or something, or I wish somebody videotaped me making it. But that's okay, because you know what, you got to let those creative energies flow. But sometimes you got to write it down. So what I do is, when I think of something, so I have all these files in my office. So when I think about making a dish, I always draw, and then I write the ingredients. So for instance, something simple as a hamburger. Okay, so I say to myself, okay, hamburger. Well, I'm gonna mix the. Do I want 80%, ground, the 20%, fat, 80% lean, or do I want fattier, or do I want to put some Portuguese sausage in there, or do I want to put something else in there? So I come up with a formula and say, okay, I'm going to make the burger itself, the meat, in this proportion. And then I want it to be this high, or I want some fried onions, or I want some onion rings, or whatever it may be. So I draw stuff, and I list all the ingredients. Do I want some sauce? Maybe some sriracha, I don't know, maybe some bacon jam. Write all that down. And then so when I go to make the hamburger, then I know all the different components I want to put. And then I taste it. Taste it. And then you kind of alter and say, yeah, maybe I want it sweeter. Maybe I want some more cheese, or no cheese, or et cetera, et cetera. And that's how I kind of like know where I left off, that I can start back. And then if I have to rebuild it, how can I rebuild it? And that's the way I rebuild it. It's by having those different papers with all those detail stuff.
Yeah, I was like, whatever happened to your boys in Kihei? Because I was visiting my family there one night, because I went to a den of yours. This is like when I was like 10, 9 years old. And I thought it was a mushroom that I had. It wasn't mushroom. It was duck liver. It tasted so damn good.
Oh, excellent. You're one of those. That's good.
So I was always wondering, like, what happened?
Well, yeah, you didn't come enough. You didn't come enough, so we have to close it. No. Actually, we were there for 10 years. We were there for 10 years, and it's interesting, because you talk about people getting older, and our the way we live changes. Our taste buds changes, but in Maui, the people used to go to Kihei a lot. They used to stay in Wailea, and they used to drive out to Kihei a lot. But the travel mix kind of changed, and people just started to stay more in Wailea. People that stayed in Wailea stayed in Wailea. So we were losing a lot of traffic coming out of Wailea. So at the end of the day, we ended up closing. But if if you go to Wailea now, we have a restaurant in not in Kihei, but we have one in Wailea. Yeah, yeah. The Humble Market Kitchen. It's not a Roy's, but it's a Humble Market Kitchen. And the reason why I call it Humble Market Kitchen is because it was to honor my grandfather. He's a very, very humble man. And he used to own a supermarket, a grocery store. It was called a Yamaguchi supermarket in Wailuku. It was on Lower Main. And then he also owned a restaurant, right? And my grandfather was incredible. He was a man who used all his hands, self-taught, worked on the plantation. Very humble man, worked on the plantation, but he was self-made. Started building apartments, used to farm, cook. Pretty fascinating. At the age of, he passed away when he was 91. But at the age of, I think it was 76 or something, he taught himself how to paint. So I have 2 paintings in my house that he painted when he was between 78 and 80 years old. Pretty insane. Yes.
Okay, so this is kind of like 2 parts. So how many restaurants do you have in total, and how many employees do you employ? And then also, so you're building like a Hyatt or something in Kihei. So maybe you can like reopen a restaurant in Kihei since everyone is.
Oh, thank you. Good advice. So we have in our company we have different things, like we have franchises and we have our company-owned restaurants, and we used to have a joint venture, and then so I sold a lot of my restaurants that I had a joint venture with, and that's on the mainland. So and then we have 10 in Hawaii, and then we have 2 on a cruise ship in the Caribbean and in Europe, and then we have. What's that? Oh yeah, I forgot. We have one in the Cayman Islands, and then there's about another 16 on the mainland. So altogether under the Roy's umbrella, the name Roy's and sister and brother of Roy's, we probably have total of about 26, 27, 30. I'm sorry, 31, somewhere around there, 31. And probably employ somewhere around 2,000 people. Yes?
What's your favorite food, and who makes it if it's not?
Well, you know what? Depending on my mood. The other day, I love, I love fried chicken. So, one day is Popeyes, next day is Zippy's. Popeyes. I go and have Simon at Zippy's in the morning. I don't have Simon for lunch or dinner, but I have Simon for breakfast. So you can't beat it for breakfast. So depending on so usually I try to get to work by 6:30 in the morning. So I usually go to Zippy's Hawaii Kai. And have a little, large Simon. But then if I have time not really time to waste, but, if I have, extra time, I like to go to Simon, have my Simon at Licky Licky Drive-In. Ooh, pretty good. Yes.
So, would you have a chance to make your own Simon, or how would you make your Simon?
Yeah, see, I'm, it's a good question, because sometimes guys like me are not good at doing something like that, because we get too crazy. We always think that we can make it better, and we can't. So we start doing a bunch of crap that doesn't work, right? You start saying that I'm gonna make this broth this way, and I'm gonna do this and do that, and it just doesn't come out. It just comes out different, and comes out weird. So stuff like that, I let the pros do it. I let the guys in Zippies make that, and I let the guys at Licky Licky Drive-In make that. And then Shige's. I don't know if you guys been to Shige's. Unbelievable. Great homemade noodles. And then you have that with the cheeseburger, or you can have the meat with the cheese, barbecue meat. Yes.
Who's your favorite chef, and who inspires you?
I guess my favorite chef in the world probably. Well, I know who it is Nobu Matsuhisa. The Nobu's the founder of Nobu's. Because I've known Nobu for for about 37, 38 years, and we used to work in L.A. Before we opened our restaurants in Los Angeles, and he's a very, very, not only is he an incredible human being, because you know what, I don't judge. I mean, I judge people's talent, but to me, what's more important than talent is how human are you? I mean, what type of person are you? What do you do in life that makes the difference? So I like Nobu because he's a very gracious man, and he's on top of that he's an incredible chef, and he's funny. He's a funny man. He's comical. So when I'm with him, not only does he, I mean, the vibe that he just throws off is just incredible. Just like Sammy, when Sammy Hagar was playing with his band members, backstage. I mean, I was inspired. I was inspired by these people just standing around, just right, because I mean, you can't play music by yourself. I mean, you can, but these four guys together make an incredible music, and they have just like in the kitchen, you have to know what the next guy is doing to make it all work, and you see that and you feel it. It's good stuff. Yeah, it's good stuff. So before I went to New York, I mean, at home I used to cook, but I mean, my dad had a jar of teriyaki sauce. I would dip the meat in there and make grilled teriyaki and get frozen pizza out of the and warm it up and stuff like that. But when I went to cooking school, I didn't really know how to cook when it came to all of those things. But what school taught me was the foundation. So to me, cooking is, to learn what a great chef is one. Because there's a lot of great chefs that I've come across that never went to school, but learned by working in great restaurants and working side by side by great chefs. And they learned a lot. So that's, I'm not going to take anything away from that. But one thing about school is that it gives you a foundation. It gives you a building block. So you get that foundation, and then you can build on that foundation, and then you can put a lot of different things in. So a combination of building that foundation by going to a good school, and then learning from the different chefs that have different approaches, different styles, and then if you go through all of that, then you can make a decision on what you really want to do. Change your style, because I really believe that. For me, I think my personality is the way that I cook. I worked with a lot of great chefs. I've seen a lot of great food. But at the end of the day, I try to be true to myself. And the food that I cook is my personality that comes out. So it's a good thing. That just means that it's your food. It's your food. It's you. No, we do events. We have, I mean, we like to do events, in different parts of town and different functions. Um, I have this jacket. My wife runs the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival. Yeah, so this year will be our 10th anniversary for this festival, and we invite about 100 and I think last year we had about 130 chefs from all around the world that came, and local chefs plus international chefs and mainland chefs that came and participated. So that was a pretty good stuff. On Maui, Big Island, on Oahu. Well, yeah, two of them here. Great. So yeah, of course. In the future. In the future, yes. Yes. Favorite place that I visited around the world. I've been. You know what? It's kind of interesting is that through cooking, I've been fortunate to be invited to about 40 different countries around the world. And it's all pretty cool because different countries, different. I mean, you have different things that happen, and I mean, there's beautiful things you see, but nothing like Hawaii, right? At the end of the day, being here is pretty incredible. But Thailand, the beaches are pretty incredible, and there's certain cities where the city itself is vibrant, like Hong Kong or Shanghai. You see a lot of different types of architecture and buildings, and I mean it's pretty fascinating. Vietnam is I love Vietnam because it's just the fields. You go through the different fields, and you go to the night markets, or whether it be the spice market over in Istanbul, Turkey, or whether it be having the old-fashioned beef stroganoff type of dish in St. Petersburg, Russia. So it's all, so it's different. Every country and city is kind of different. So
Are you a beach person? Do you go surfing or diving or what?
yeah, I was hoping you wouldn't ask that question. No, just kidding. No, I'm not. I actually am not a good swimmer. So yeah, I'm not a water person. My son played water polo, and what used to go surfing and bodyboarding and all that stuff. But the water and it's I guess I'm like a dressing, oil and vinegar, water kind of like liquid and oil doesn't mix. So I don't know. I kind of fell in that category.
So, kind of curious about at home, at your house. So you cook, right? Your wife cooks for you too, right? Do you guys ever criticize her about her cooking, or do you guys ever have any challenge each other?
No. Uh, yeah, no, yeah. My wife's cooking is very, very good. Excellent. No, but there's no competition. No competition at all. But and I love cooking at home because you know what? You're cooking for family. I mean, there's nothing better than cooking for your family. I mean, that's I have to say it's just an excitement. It just feels good. So that's why I always say, even though maybe your parents weren't great cooks, but at the end of the day, I've always enjoyed. I mean, my dad was pretty good, but I've always enjoyed my parents' cooking because they cooked with love, and you can't trade that for anything. So home cooking is to me is numero uno.
So, out of all your years cooking, what is the most memorable moment that you ever had?
Memorable. When it came to cooking, I don't know if I had a really one memorable moment, but Um, yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, because you get kind of jazzed and excited when of course, like I said before, nothing better than family and friends and stuff like that. But when like a great chef comes in, and they say, hey, you know, can you make me a 6-course dinner or something, and then you kind of got to jump into action, right? And so those things are kind of cool. I mean, because on the spot you have to start creating, and then you have to your mind just starts to go and boom boom boom. But yeah, yes, maybe all the way in the back or over here somewhere. I would love to be involved. Thank you for asking. If you don't ask, you never receive. That's a good thing. Good thing you stood up. Well, the original Roy's is in Hawaii Kai, and we opened in 1988. We opened actually December 23rd, 1988. So this is our 31st anniversary. So 31 years. Well, you know what? Hey, listen. At the end of the day, you always like your first one because that's what kind of propelled. So, but every restaurant has its own beauty, right? It's hard to say which one's better. I love them all. Yes.
So, I work in the kitchen, and do you have any advice on like consistency? Because I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, I'll make something and then it's good, and then like when I make it again, it's like I get disappointed because I'm like, oh, it could have been better.
Well, that's good. It's okay to be disappointed because it means that you care. Being disappointed is not a bad thing. And there's obstacles that are along the way on every day, and that's the challenge. So the challenge becomes, hey, how do I mentally overcome it? So whether you have a recipe book or whether you write something or maybe you say to yourself, okay, that's why building that profile, building that library of flavors, of textures in your mind is extremely important because then you can see what's missing. What am I missing? Am I missing salt, pepper? Am I missing maybe the consistency wasn't there? Maybe it's got to be thicker. Maybe it's got to be thinner. Maybe you have to put more of this and less of that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you have to kind of like taste it, and that's why when I cook, I always taste. I'm always tasting. Whenever I make something, I'm always tasting, tasting, tasting. I never make something, and that's the biggest problem with people. Is that a lot of times they make stuff and they go, doesn't taste the same. Well, sometimes you have to, while you're making it, you have to taste it and say to yourself, okay, am I on track? And if I'm not, what am I not doing? What am I missing? What can I add? Okay, if I added too many things, well, how do I change it so that it can become what it used to be or what it could have been? So.
Did you meet your wife on the island or
No, not in home ec. No, on the island. My wife's born and raised here, so yeah. No, just this is my second marriage, so I've been married for 9 years. 9 years. Yeah. Yes.
what is your favorite dish your grandfather ever made for you?
My grandfather loved to cook, and my favorite dish he's made it over and over again when he was alive was chicken hikka. He used to always make chicken hikka. Chop all the stuff, vegetables, chop them up and throw in the pot. Throw it over rice and scoop it down. Yes.
Okay, so like you got all these restaurants and you talk about like cooking for like a family, like and everything like that being like the best. So like, what kind of like legacy, like what kind of message do you want like to live on, like with your restaurants and everything like that?
Well, I mean, it's I never really think about, my legacy, but I've always, my whole thing has always been, I remember when I you know, I left home when I was 16 or 17 years old to go work for the U.S. Army. Uh, Not in the service, but to move medical equipment. So I got out of school early and I left and started living on my own. So starting from the age of 17, I've been on my own. But my belief has always been to work hard. And my dad was a hard worker. My dad was an extremely hard worker. So all my life is that I knew nothing other than to work hard, you know. And even till today, I go to my office. If I'm in town, I go to my office 7 days a week. New Year's Day, New Year's Eve, Christmas, I may not be there all day, but I'll make it a point, go in my office, do some work, be there for 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, and then do what I have to do later on. But I make it a point, and that's just me. I love what I do, and I know that that's what it takes to get ahead in this world. I know that to make a difference, you have to put the time in. It may be a cliche, but I'm just saying. I already know myself that that's the only way that I'm going to make a difference. And that's the difference that I'm trying to make. And to make our company better, I want to make sure that I lead people in the right way. And to lead the right people, I have to be somebody that walks the talk, right? So the work, the amount of hours, to be finesse, put the detail stuff in, making sure everything is done. And being an absentee owner is not good. Not good for anybody. So my legacy, if you really think about it, is around those parameters, making sure that what I leave for the next generation is all the work that I've done today to make it all happen, to build a foundation that's not going to crumble, to build a foundation that's going to withstand all the different pressures, all the different nuances that happened in life, that we can't control. But one thing that I can control is my emotions, right? Is what I do on a day-to-day basis to make a difference. So that's where I always pride myself with, is that making that difference on a day-to-day and then say, listen, at the end of the day, you got to make the right decision, right? Under pressure, you got to make that right decision. And sometimes it's a hard decision, but you got to make the right decision. So that's where we stand. That's where I try to make a difference in. So. Any other question? Come on, guys, we're on a roll now. Huh? Cam in D.C. Come over here because, these are great. I mean, you guys should be inspired by these guys who have really done a great job tonight. And they continue to do great work in the restaurant. So, so it's all good stuff. Let me put my mic down, then you can take a picture.